trying to frame Michael Jackson, and all of this really is an elaborate scheme to frame Michael Jackson and make him look guilty?
I just answered that question.
Mr. Snedden, in retrospect, do you think you had the wrong family on the stand?
I don't know how much work you do in the criminal justice system, but the system I worked in for 37 years is that people come in and they're the victims of crime. We don't select our victims, and we don't select the families they come from. What we do is we evaluate the case. We try to make a conscientious decision as to whether or not we have enough evidence to go forward. And that's what we did in this case. We've done it in every other case since I've been the district attorney in this county, and we will continue to do that as long as I'm district attorney of this county.
So you stand by what the family said in court?
I think that's evident.
There have been a lot of claims that because of the gag order, you haven't been able to address. I mean, fans have, even Jackson's mother has said that you have some involvement with the Ku Klux Klan. Fans have claimed that you have relatives who are among the witnesses. Do you want to address any of those now that you finally can?
They're all false. We all did our job. We did it conscientiously. And anybody who knows Tom Snedden, knows Gordon Auchincloss, and knows Ron Zonin, and the things that we've done in our community and the families that we have, knows all of that to be untrue. And if people would simply take the time to investigate the allegation before they print it, they'd know it's untrue also.
Have you looked into, and do you have concerns of reports that at least one of the jurors was peddling a book deal?
I had heard that.
You had heard that?
Yes.
And did you have concerns about that? And was it looked into?
Let's just say that it was taken care of by the court.
Would you reflect for just one moment on the conspiracy charge? Do you think that it might have been a better case without conspiracy, only child molestation?
I've learned a very expensive lesson in life a long time ago. That is, you never look back, you always look forward.
Tom, is this the end of your office pursuing Michael Jackson?
No comment.
What do you do now?
I don't think you want to know. I've been told not to crack any jokes, so we go back to work. We got a lot of cases that have been pending. I have an office to run. We're having budget hearings today. We're professionals, and we'll continue to act as professionals the way we act professionally in this case. And I'm not going to look back and apologize for anything we've done. We did a very conscientious, thorough job, as did the Sheriff's Department, investigating this case.
Would you answer the question whether witnesses that you put on the stand surprised you when they testified?
I mean, I'm not going to get into the trial. I just say that the experience of any trial lawyer like Gordon or Ron or anybody in my office, for that matter, who tries felonies is you never have a case where a witness, you don't get some surprises on both sides in both ways. And I think Mr. Mesereau would tell you the same thing. And that's a product of being a trial lawyer, and you learn to adjust and you go on.
Why did you go ahead with the case when you knew the mother in particular to be such a troublesome witness?
I don't think the media generally understands the responsibility of a prosecutor. And I'll answer it this way, and the simple thing is, when a victim comes in and the victim tells you they've been victimized, and you believe that, and you believe that the evidence supports that, you don't look at their pedigree. We look at what we think is what's right. You do the right things for the right reasons. If it doesn't work out, that's why we have a jury system. But we did the right thing for the right reasons.
Do you have any problem with the judge reading the jury notes privately without releasing to the media last Friday and having that?
Listen, the judge is the judge. He has the prerogative to do and run his court the way he wants. I have no criticism of the judge.
Do you think that's constitutional and you don't have any problem with that?
You know, Greta, I just, you know, that's, the judge has done what he's done, and that's the way we have to live with what, as you know, what the judge does. I have no criticism of the judge whatsoever, none.
Tom, if there were pivotal moments in the trial when you thought it was going one way or the other, what were they?
I didn't think there were any.
Mr. Snedden?
I didn't. I just, that the case
if you
went
had,
on.
If someone came to you now with strong allegations of molestation on the part of Michael Jackson, what would you do?
We'd review it like any other case we review in our office, just like we reviewed this one.
You wouldn't shy from it now?
Well, the answer to the question, truthfully, is I probably wouldn't if it was a good case, but I think we all learned some lessons here that we thought we had a good case this time. And we thought we did a conscientious job, and the Sheriff's Department did a remarkable job of investigating it. But no, the people in this county elected me to do a job, and I've tried to do that conscientiously. And I'll continue to do that the same way.
Child molester has escaped unpunished.
No comment. Okay?
Do you hope that Mr. Jackson leaves Santa Barbara County?
No comment.
Can I just ask, what was your assessment of the defense team and how they did in this trial?
I absolutely have no comment about that.
Any estimate on the cost?
No.
You mentioned you'd learned some lessons. What lessons have you learned?
Well, I was referring probably more than anything else to the celebrity factor.
Can you
I guess I'm
elaborate?
not the Lone Ranger in that faction.
Why does it take so long to try this case?
Actually, I thought the case went pretty fast, considering what the original estimates were. We were in trial for February, March, April, May.
So you don't think trials seem to take a little longer in California than...
Well, they definitely take a lot longer than they do in the South.
I'll give you that one.
Well,
Tom, when you walked into the courtroom, did you have an inkling what the verdict was?
no.
No?
We obviously had our aspirations, but certainly I had no inkling.
You mentioned the celebrity factor. Do you think that's played a key part?
Well, it seems to us it would, but maybe we're just looking for explanations in the wrong places. I don't know. Okay, any other questions? If you don't, we have some unfinished business. All right, thank you very much.
District Attorney Thomas Snedden Jr. speaking to reporters after a California jury acquitted Michael Jackson of all 10 counts against him at the conclusion of his 4-month trial on child molestation charges. Hello and welcome. I'm Jonathan Mann. We're breaking away now from CNN's U.S. network to begin CNN International's coverage of what we've learned from the Jackson trial. For more than a decade, there have been rumors and reports that Michael Jackson was doing odd things with children. Jackson himself appeared in a documentary holding hands with one boy and told an interviewer he brought children into his bed, though the time spent there, he said, was entirely innocent. That boy went to court to accuse Jackson of molesting him. The state of California raided Jackson's Neverland Ranch a number of times and ultimately brought 10 charges against him. It failed to convince the jury of a single one, a stunning and complete defeat handed down just a short time ago. On this special extended edition of Insight, Michael Jackson, not guilty. The verdicts were announced a little less than an hour ago. Let's listen to the way the court heard the results.
We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of conspiracy as charged in count 1 of the indictment, dated June 13th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 2, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of a lewd act upon a minor child as charged in count 2 of the indictment, dated June 13th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 3, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of a lewd act upon a minor child as charged in count 3 of the indictment, dated June 13th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 4, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of lewd act upon a minor child as charged in count 4 of the indictment, dated June 10th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 5, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of a lewd act upon a minor child as charged in count 5 of the indictment, dated June 10th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 6, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of attempting to commit a lewd act upon a minor child as charged in count 6 of the indictment, dated June 13th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 7, verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of administering an intoxicating agent to assist in the commission of a felony as charged in count 7 of the indictment, dated June 13th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 7 verdict, lesser offense. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of providing alcoholic beverages to persons under the age of 21, a lesser included offense of that charge in count 7 of the indictment, dated June 13th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 8 verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of administering an intoxicating agent to assist in the commission of a felony as charged in count 8 of the indictment, dated June 13, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 8 verdict, lesser offense. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of providing alcoholic beverages to persons under the age of 21, a lesser included offense that charged in count 8 of the indictment, dated June 13, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 9 verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of administering an intoxicating agent to assist in the commission of a felony as charged in count 9 of the indictment, dated June 10, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 9 verdict, lesser offense. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of providing alcoholic beverages to persons under the age of 21, a lesser included offense of that charge in count 9 of the indictment, dated June 10, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 10 verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of administering an intoxicating agent to assist in the commission of a felony as charged in count 10 of the indictment, dated June 10th, 2005, foreperson number 80. Count 10 verdict, lesser offense. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of providing alcoholic beverages to persons under the age of 21, a lesser included offense of that charge in count 10 of the indictment.
There were no cameras allowed in the courtroom in Santa Maria, California, and a microphone only long enough to record those verdicts being read. But CNN's Rusty Dornan was in court when the jury returned the not guilty verdict. Here's how she described it.
Absolutely incredible, as it always is, as you know, in those courtrooms. You could not hear a sound in the courtroom as the judge was ripping open each of the verdict messages, because he had to look at them first before he had the clerk read them. And the only sound in the courtroom you could hear was the tearing of these envelopes. Meantime, I was sitting just behind the family, behind Catherine and Joe Jackson and Tito, and then in front of them, LaToya, his sister, and Randy, his brother. Now, just as the clerk is about to read the verdicts, all the kids reached around. Tito had his arm around his mother. LaToya reached her hand around. They all were touching Catherine Jackson, Michael's mother. She started to break. As soon as they heard the first not guilty, she broke down and started to cry. They all kept sort of grabbing her and holding her. And from that point on, really, there was no other sound in the courtroom other than that clerk reading those not guilty verdicts. Now, Michael Jackson, you could not see his expression. He appeared very somber, but at the end, he did turn. He hugged his attorney, Robert Sanger, then, of course, also hugged Thomas Mesereau, but it still appeared very somber. As you can see, when he was leaving, he was blowing kisses to the fans and that sort of thing. But absolutely incredible moment in the courtroom, and, of course, for his family, for him, for what they've been going through for the past few months.
Walking out, the family did not, by any stretch of the imagination, raise their hands up. There wasn't a sense of jubilation. Was there any of that, any celebration?
There was no celebration. And of course, the judge cautioned everyone in the beginning, because the public is in the courtroom as well, do not show any signs of either unhappiness or jubilation with those verdicts. And as they were read, the family, as I said, all they did was they really showed how they felt by touching each other. And, and although Michael's father, Joe Jackson, kept his hands clasped and stared straight forward through the whole time the verdicts were being read. As we walked outside of the courtroom, then the other brothers and sisters were there. Jermaine was there, as well as Janet Jackson were there to greet the family as soon as they came out of the courtroom.
What about the jurors? Did they make eye contact with Jackson walking in, or did you see anything from them?
You couldn't. Jackson was looking directly at the jurors as they walked in. He seemed to be nodding somewhat, thanking them as they left, but the jurors seemed more conscious of acknowledging the alternates that were also there. All the alternates, all 8 alternates were also in the courtroom at the time. But Jackson, as I said, very somber, very, as he has been through much of this trial. It's been very difficult to read his emotions, but certainly after he hugged his attorneys, you could see there was definitely some relief on his part.
What about Tom Sneddon, who had so much invested in this case, the man that decided to go forward despite the inadequacies, if you will, with the accuser and the accuser's family? Anything from him?
Nothing. It was when the prosecutors came in, they seemed very upbeat. When they initially came in, they were talking, they were back for a lot of smiling, that sort of thing, which contrasted really with when Tom Mesereau walked in with Michael Jackson. The two of them sat there in the courtroom staring straight ahead for maybe 10, 15 minutes before the judge and the jury came in, whereas the prosecutors had been talking with one another and smiling, that sort of thing. After the verdict was announced, just very grim-faced. They weren't looking at each other, just very grim face after hearing, because once you heard those first 2 counts, it was very clear where this jury was going.
Rusty Dornan, not guilty 10 times over. And then a convoy of black sport utility vehicles bearing Michael Jackson and his entourage from the courthouse to his Neverland Ranch, ending one of the stranger trials that this country has seen in recent years. Peter Viles has this look back.
Which image will you remember? Maybe Michael Jackson jumping on the roof of his SUV to salute his fans? Maybe the day he showed up in his pajamas so late for court he almost got arrested? Or the parade of celebrities to the Santa Maria courthouse? Jay Leno, Macaulay Culkin, Larry King. The circus atmosphere at times almost overshadowed the seriousness of the charges against him.
In violation of the California Penal Code, commonly known as child molestation.
The state alleges that over several weeks in 2003 at his Neverland Ranch, Jackson molested a 13-year-old boy after plying him with alcohol. In all, Jackson faces 10 felony charges, 4 counts of molestation, 1 count of attempted molestation, 4 counts related to alcohol, and a conspiracy charge that Jackson conspired to hold the boy and his family captive inside Neverland. Over time, Jackson did switch lawyers, but not defenses.
Michael Jackson is unequivocally and absolutely innocent of these charges.
The accuser's younger brother testified he saw Jackson groping his brother while the boy was asleep. Then the alleged victim, now 15, testified facing down the pop star and telling the jury Jackson sexually abused him on several occasions.
It was a little bit of a stare down going on between the boy and Michael Jackson during the testimony, whereas at times before that, the boy would talk to the jury. If you notice, when he was talking about that molestation, and especially on cross-examination, he was looking at Michael Jackson.
Another prosecution witness testified he saw Jackson perform oral sex on another boy, and yet another witness testified he had been fondled by Jackson as a boy.
He broke down. He said, "This is very hard for me. It's taken a lot of counseling." He was very believable, and he was dynamite for the prosecution.
The Jackson defense was really an attack, painting the accuser and his family as manipulative scam artists. The key confrontation, Thomas Mesereau's cross-examination of the alleged victim's mother.
She really backfired for prosecutors. She was very brassy on the stand. She was argumentative, and also she reeked of insincerity. You just didn't believe her story. She was too ham-boned. She turned and addressed the jurors very dramatically every time she answered a question. She argued with the lead defense attorney, Tom Mesereau. She just imploded on the stand.
Called by the prosecution, Jackson's ex-wife, Debbie Rowe, seemed to help the defense. She called Jackson a wonderful father who was manipulated by, quote, vultures around him. Defense witness Macaulay Culkin portrayed Jackson as harmless, saying he did sleep in Jackson's bed but was never molested. Jackson never testified, so he was never cross-examined, but jurors did hear from him through videotapes played for the jury, in which Jackson declared what he called his pure love for children. Peter Viles for CNN, Los Angeles.
And once again, if you're just joining us, the pop star Michael Jackson has been found not guilty on all 10 charges by a jury in Santa Maria, California. CNN's Chris Wolf is standing by outside the courtroom. It sounded like pandemonium out there for a while.
It was, John, indeed. Hundreds and hundreds of people surrounded this court complex. for the reading of the verdict. As they heard that a verdict had been reached earlier today, they started to flock to the courthouse for the reading of the verdict. They were cheering for Michael Jackson. Most of them obviously were Michael Jackson fans. They would cheer that Michael is innocent, Michael is innocent. He left the courthouse surrounded by his entire family, all of his sisters and his brothers and his parents, of course. They were thrilled at the outcome of this trial. Michael Jackson left here a free man.
Michael Jackson will not be going to jail for child molestation, but he may be locked in another kind of prison, one of his own making.
I think at some level Michael feels a sense of betrayal by those who he trusted the most, who in some sense turned on him.
And the entertainer could face a new battle from the accuser's family.
Expect a big civil lawsuit. If that family can hit on the civil lawsuit, they could end up owning Neverland, chimpanzees, spiders, and all.
The world watched the circus known as the Michael Jackson trial for the last 4 months. 141 witnesses testified, including actor Macaulay Culkin and comedian Jay Leno for the defense. Some observers called this the trial of the videotapes. Jurors saw the documentary Living with Michael Jackson, in which he admitted to sharing his bed with young boys in a non-sexual way, although the charges relate to alleged molestation that occurred after the documentary aired. Later, jurors watched a videotaped police interview in which the young accuser tells detectives that Michael Jackson molested him. And then there were pictures of young nude boys found at Neverland Ranch.
His life has been laid bare in the courtroom, and it really is a sad life.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing.
After this entire episode has gone and ended, Michael Jackson, we've apparently lost Chris Wolf and his audio. We're going to try and reestablish things. Our coverage of the verdict in the Michael Jackson trial will continue right after this break.
Michael Jackson will be walking out of this courtroom a free man, not guilty on the more serious charges, the lesser charges, administering alcohol, a misdemeanor, a slam dunk against the prosecution.
The next revolutionary. The next visionary. The next person